Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're joining us in around the world. Welcome to Spaceflight Now's live coverage. Welcome to our live coverage of the latest mission from Vandenberg Space Force Base. I'm Will Robinson Smith, reporter with Spaceflight Now. Good to be with you on this Thursday evening. We're broadcasting as we always do from the Spaceflight Now News Bureau here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. SpaceX is counting down to its third Falcon 9 launch in less than 42 hours, 27 and a half minutes remaining on the clock to the launch of another batch of Starlink V2 Mini optimized satellites heading into a low Earth orbit. Our photographers have this mission off, of course, given this is a West Coast venture, but they have been busily shooting and editing photos from the last couple of Cape-based launches. So if you're not already following them on X, you can find them at their handles here on the screen. Adam is at A Burn NYC, Michael Kane at MD Kane Jr., John Pisani at John Pisani Photo, and be sure to follow Spaceflight Now simply at Spaceflight Now. You can also find us on Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook if you yourself are not on X. 24 Starlink satellites on board this Falcon 9 rocket set to lift off at the time you see here on your screen. 9:26 p.m. Pacific, 12:26 a.m. Eastern, 04:26 UTC for those joining around the world. Visibility may not be the best once we have eyes on the Falcon 9 rocket in the final 5 minutes of the count, but hopefully once it clears the pad and gets up a little bit higher, visibility will be better for those of you in Central and Southern California and perhaps a little further inland as well. The Starlink 17-11 mission, flight of Starlink satellites heading into a polar orbit, which means we're looking at a southerly trajectory heading away from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Yeah, good. Yeah, here we go. Here's the satellite view from the Goes West satellite. You can see some of the clouds hanging on top of Vandenberg there, which is why I was suggesting that visibility right from the jump may not be the best, but hopefully as the rocket climbs higher, folks will have a somewhat decent view of its ascension. As we're getting going here tonight, want to thank the more than 1,700 of you who are watching with us live. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking that like button, share the stream, if you would be so kind. That'll help the YouTube algorithm to do its thing and bring some more folks into this live launch coverage as we cruise on towards liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket. 24 and a half minutes, roughly speaking, before it lifts off from the pad. SpaceX is currently fueling the rocket, so it is very much in preparation for a good flight tonight. Taking a look at our live chat, want to thank our moderators helping us out today. So we've got Jeff Hansen, Rick Donner with us this evening. You can help them out by following the rules of the chat. We ask that you post your message in English so that our mods can respond as appropriate. That you refrain from delving into overt politics or religion. Emojis are perfectly fine. We just ask that you don't create a huge block of them to take up a large percentage of the chat. And last but certainly not least, we ask that you treat each other with the kindness and respect that you yourself would like to be treated. This and every other broadcast is made possible in no small part thanks to our wonderful channel member community as well. So big thanks to folks like Grandpa Jim Pondu, Wonder Dog, Cumulus Granatus, Distributors 69, Mark Pachotnik, I am Lita, and many others. Channel membership comes with a number of perks. Those include discounts at our online shop, which is shop.spacelightnow.com, access to member-only videos here on YouTube, access to our members-only Discord server, and of course the ability to watch all of our live launch liftoff moments from here in Florida in 4K. Want to welcome in new channel members, Desiree Schwantes. Hopefully I didn't just terribly butcher that, Desiree, but thanks for joining at the pad leader level, as did Michael Cisneros. Last little bit of housekeeping with about 22 and a half minutes to go. If you have a comment or question about this mission or other goings on in the realm of space or spaceflight, you can use the YouTube Super Chat feature to have your comment or query elevated for discussion. Not only will it be giving us some interesting things to talk about as we cruise on through the count, but you'll also be supporting what we do here at Spaceflight Now, and that, my friends, is always greatly appreciated. Had we eyes on the Falcon 9 rocket at this point of the count, we would be coming right upon the so-called big vent as SpaceX thermally conditions the feed lines there at the pad prior to second stage liquid oxygen load. As things are progressing, let's go ahead and briefly talk about the countdown timeline, the sequence of events as we're looking towards a good liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket. Stepping quickly through the milestones past, T-minus 38 minutes is when the SpaceX launch director made the call that they were good to go for the start of prop load, which began at T-minus 35 minutes with the loading of RP-1, a rocket-grade kerosene on board the Falcon 9's first and second stages. At the same time, liquid oxygen began flowing on board the Falcon 9's first stage. 30 minutes out, cryogenic helium load began on the rocket's first stage as well. Same was true on the second stage as well, loading that helium into the pressure vessels on both stages, used to help pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. 23 minutes out is when the second stage RP-1 tank is full. At T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds, which we just passed by, is when the strong back chill down process begins. This where SpaceX will start to thermally condition the feed lines at the pad prior to upper stage LOX load. The vent lasts roughly 4 minutes in duration, setting up that second stage LOX process to begin at the 16-minute mark. Rolling right along, the next milestone after that is the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the Falcon 9 first stage booster. SpaceX will flow a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps, helping to protect the engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during startup. 6 minutes before flight, the first stage kerosene tank is full. T-minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the strong back retraction sequence begin. First, the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings will open up. Then here in Vandenberg, the strong back will recline about 13 degrees away from the Falcon 9 rocket. Stay in that position up to and through liftoff. T-minus 3 minutes, the first stage LOX tank is full. Same as true on the second stage about a minute afterwards. At that point, the Falcon 9 rocket is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. Then in the final 60 seconds, as we hear the call that the Falcon 9 is in startup, control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. At the same time, the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. SpaceX launch director will give their go for launch call T-minus 45 seconds. The engine ignition command is issued at T-minus 3 seconds. And if all 9 Merlins are healthy and ignite as expected, the command will begin for the hold down clamps to release that Falcon 9 rocket for a T0 liftoff. Once again, coming up at the time that you see here on your screen, 9:26 p.m. Pacific, 12:26 a.m. Eastern, 04:26 UTC for those around the world. Taking a look at our live chat here as we're just about 17 and a half minutes away from the flight of this Falcon 9 rocket. Want to thank a few more folks for your support this evening. Certainly appreciate it. Our thanks to channel member and moderator Jeff Hansen for $10 super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff says, go Vandy, go SpaceX, go Falcon 9, go Starlink, Godspeed 1082. 1082 is the name of, or the tail number of the booster that is flying today's mission, getting ready to take off and hopefully have a good landing, completing its 16th trip to space and back. Also want to thank Haley Higgins, hashtag Irish Haley, for a $2 super chat. It says Haley in SD. Everybody click comments, hit the dollar sign, which I will translate to the like button. And that does help out. Channel member My Honey, been with us now as a member at the pad leader level for 9 months. Certainly appreciate the ongoing support. Honey says, 9 months of learning space. Thanks, Spaceflight Now, crew, mods, Will, the camera crew, for teaching me all space stuff related. We're happy to help spread the knowledge as best we can. Certainly appreciate the kind words. T-minus 16 minutes and counting now. Second stage lock zone is now getting underway. One more comment for the time being. Lisa Lynch with a very generous $20 super chat. Really appreciate you supporting us at that level, Lisa. Thank you so much. Lisa says, thank you, moderators and Will, for your tireless work to support and educate those of us who love space aeronautics from afar. It's very kind of you to say. We certainly do our level best, given all of the busyness that the launch environment provides these days and everything else that is not immediately launch related, but is important for us to cover, certainly. One of those items I'll throw out, since it was quite a notable news item today, should have an article going up on this early-ish tomorrow, is related to the forthcoming flight of the debut of Sierra Space's Dreamchaser space plane. Those of you may recall that myself and Adam Bernstein, went out to Sandusky, Ohio back in February of 2024 to see the integrated Dreamchaser alongside its Shooting Star cargo module. Originally, back then, it was set to fly later that year. Well, now here we are in almost October of 2025, and the news coming down today from both Sierra Space and NASA, each releasing statements on their own, noting that the Commercial Resupply Services 2 contract that Sierra Space was a party to, alongside both SpaceX and Northrop Grumman, that provide cargo delivery services to the space station. The terms of that are changing, and instead of Sierra Space's Dreamchaser flying to the ISS on its debut mission, it will instead conduct a free flyer mission in late 2026 at the earliest. Again, we'll have a piece going up on that in the morning hours tomorrow, but I do want to give you this brief quote that we got from Sierra Space late tonight, addressing, in addition to the statement, the press release that they put out, we got this additional statement from them in response to our email asking a number of questions about the change, the reason behind it. So I'll read it here for all of you. They say, quote, significant manufacturing milestones have been achieved for Dreamchaser, which is now entering final testing phases to meet rigorous pre-launch requirements. The vehicle has begun electromagnetic interference, EMI, testing, an essential step towards ensuring mission readiness and reliability. Sierra Space remains focused on completing the final phases of testing and preparation to ensure Dreamchaser's successful first flight, planned for late 2025 and now anticipated in late 2026 due to launch vehicle availability. End quote. For those who've been following the Dreamchaser program, you may recall that once upon a time the vehicle was set to be the payload on board the second certification flight for United Launch Alliance's Vulcan rocket. In a number of conversations that we were able to participate in media briefings with ULA President and CEO Tory Bruno, he expressed that obviously ULA has been very closely tracking the progress of the Dreamchaser, and they waited as long as they were able to allow as much margin for Dreamchaser to become ready in order to fly on the Cert 2 mission. And of course, as things played out, that didn't end up being the case, and ULA ended up not flying a customer mission on the Cert 2 flight last October. So based off the new statement from Sierra Space, as well as the one that was issued earlier today, it sounds like in no small part because of the Project Kuiper constellation obligations that ULA has, in addition to the national security payloads that it is flying, and perhaps some other customers that have not yet been announced for the Vulcan rocket, that the manifest availability for a flight of Dreamchaser on a Vulcan is not going to become available until sometime in the late 2026 timeframe. Where exactly that falls, we'll have to wait and see, but certainly one to keep an eye on. Last little bit about that I'll say before we come back to the mission at hand is that in addition to the first Dreamchaser flight now being a free flyer operation, NASA is now no longer obligated to necessarily use Dreamchaser as a cargo delivery vehicle for the ISS cargo delivery needs. Of course, we're in the final handful of years before the planned retirement of the space station, and between the Dragon vehicle, Northrop Grumman Cygnus spacecraft, as well as the just about to come on board next month HTVX cargo vehicle from Japan, NASA has multiple ways of getting cargo to and from the space station, with both Cygnus and HTVX being able to burn up in the atmosphere once they are unberthed from the space station, so they can take a lot of garbage with them. And Dragon is able to, of course, return and be reflown, and so it can return science. Obviously, Dreamchaser would have functioned more like Dragon in that regard. So we'll have to wait and see what NASA decides based off of the performance ultimately of that first free flyer mission for Dreamchaser. Lots to follow with that particular program. Speaking of things to follow, we're just under 9 minutes to go before the flight of this Falcon 9 rocket. Coming up in roughly 2 minutes will be the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines at the base of the Falcon 9 booster. Now T minus 7 minutes, 22 seconds and counting. Before we get our views of the Falcon 9 rocket, mentioned it briefly a little bit earlier in the broadcast, but let's go ahead and give you an overview of the launch trajectory for this mission. After the Falcon 9 rocket lifts off from Space Launch Complex 4 East there at Vandenberg Space Force Base, the rocket will fly in a southerly trajectory with the first stage booster B-1082 following that orange arc and aiming for a touchdown on the drone ship called, of course, I Still Love You. Successful drone ship recovery would be the 153rd for this particular vessel and the 512th for SpaceX overall. Now, this booster is flying for a 16th time, which doesn't put it in the top 5 for the most frequently flown boosters for the company, but SpaceX is in the pursuit of certifying both its first stage boosters as well as its payload fairings for up to 40 missions apiece. So following fairing jettison, the fairing halves will splash down in the waters of the Pacific Ocean under the support of steerable parachutes. They'll be brought aboard a recovery vessel like the one you see here on your screen, brought back into port, then off to Vandenberg, where they will be refurbished and turned around for future flights. We're just past the 6-minute mark in the countdown, which means the first stage RP-1 tank is full. Coming up in about a minute's time, we should hear the call out for the start of the strong back retraction. Taking a look at our live chat briefly before we get our Falcon 9 views. I want to thank Grandpa Jim Pondu for being a member with us now for 14 months at the pad leader level. Who says simply, let's go. Jeff Control has also been a member with us now for 2 months.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
And we can see a very Vandenberg view of Slick 4 East today. Pretty darn socked in with fog.
Strong back retract has started.
Coming up on 3 minutes in the count. Should hear a call for first stage LOX load being complete.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Right on time. We'll hear a similar call regarding the second stage at around T minus 2 minutes. In the meantime, I want to thank a few more folks for your support this evening. Our thanks to Loki3000 for a $2 super chat. Thank you, Loki. I'm Lita with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Lita, who says, thanks again for all you do. Much appreciated. Appreciate the kind words. Also, thanks to Jeff Shiner for a very generous 20 Canadian dollars super chat. Really appreciate that, Jeff.
Stage 2 launch load is complete.
With that good call, the Falcon 9 rocket is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. I'll let you know there's venting that's happening right now for the ground gas close. There we go, the ground gas closeouts, but you'd be hard pressed to see from where to where. But at this point in the count, SpaceX is releasing the remaining liquid oxygen in the feed lines there at the pad. You could just barely make it out, that venting at the top center of your screen. It's the extra clouds on top of all the other ones.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
With that call, we're just waiting for the SpaceX launch director to confirm that they are in fact go for launch, albeit with not the greatest views.
LD is go for launch.
And that's the call we were hoping to hear. Now, coming up on 30 seconds ahead of flight, so we'll step back on our commentary, listen along in with you, and we'll be back on the other side of liftoff.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go Starlink. Vehicle is pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal. Nominal power and telemetry. Vehicle is supersonic.
With Falcon 9 now traveling faster than the speed of sound, a good ascent from Pad 4 east.
Max Q.
The rocket now passing through the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Throttling up on the engines now. Shortly, we should hear a call for MVAC chill as SpaceX thermally conditions the Merlin vacuum engine on the rocket's second stage.
MVAC chill.
With that good call, we're now looking ahead to a couple of events in fairly rapid succession. We'll see first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, at about T plus 2 minutes and 25 seconds, followed moments later by stage separation and then the ignition of that Merlin vacuum engine. The payload fairings currently encapsulating the Starlink satellites will be jettisoned just before the 3-minute mark in the flight. We're now about 10 seconds to MECO.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Good call outs, good visuals from the SpaceX onboard cameras. See those hypersonic grid fins deploying on the booster. Should see fairing jettison momentarily.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Fairings away, Starlink lights on, and we're a little more than 3 minutes into the progress of this mission. Coming up next will be the start of the 3-engine entry burn, where the Falcon booster, tail number B1082, will start to hit the brakes, slowing itself down in preparation for the subsequent landing burn that will take it all the way to the drone ship. Of course, I still love you. Meanwhile, SpaceX will continue to toggle back and forth to give views of both sides of the engine nozzle on the rocket's upper stage. Here's a quick glimpse at the telemetry, the trajectory of both the booster and the upper stage. You can see that on the left-hand side of your screen. The dot to the right, that is, of course, lower than the dot above. That is the first stage. The booster heading towards that final point out in the Pacific Ocean. You see at the end of that arc where the drone ship is waiting for it. That entry burn is set to start in just about 1 minute from now. The Falcon booster gets its now characteristic sooty look about it, in part because of this operation that we're about to see. The entry burn and the subsequent landing burn sees the Falcon booster flying back through its own plume, which applies a little bit of a soot layer on the side of the booster, which of course builds up over time. So it starts out with a pristine white, and then you'll see a booster like, oh, say, the flight leader right now, which is B1067. After 30 flights, you can just barely make out the lettering of SpaceX if you're like seeing the booster from across the port at
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Port Canaveral.
Stage 1 entry burn startup. Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
With the conclusion of the entry burn, SpaceX now turns to the single engine landing burn. That's set to begin at about T plus 7 minutes and 57 seconds. Roughly 1 minute from now. Taking a quick peek at the live chat, looks like some folks in California were able to see the rocket. A lot of people saying it was quite faint from where you were. David Martin saying Pasadena saw nothing. Meanwhile, Paul Hudson was able to catch it from Studio City.
Stage 1 transonic.
Falcon booster flying below the speed of sound now.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
And the flight termination system on the rocket's upper stage, as you heard, has been safed. No longer needed at this stage in flight. less than 10 seconds to the start of the landing burn.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 intermittent guidance.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a good recovery for B-1082.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Now in this parking orbit, the upper stage will coast until about T plus 53 minutes and 46 seconds. There will be a brief 1 second burn to circularize the orbit, and then the Starlink satellites will be deployed at about T plus 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 38 seconds post liftoff. Before we go ahead and wind things down with a look at our mission stats as they currently stand, do want to thank a few more folks for your support tonight. See if I can get the chat working on my end. There we go. I want to thank channel member and moderator Astro Joe for gifting a Spaceflight Now membership. Really appreciate that generosity, Joe. And to our newest gifted member, welcome. I'm glad to have you with us. If you haven't already, be sure to thank Joe in the live chat. And we hope you decide to stick around with channel membership beyond the month you were just gifted. Carl Wilburn with a $5 super chat says he was checking in from Torrance, California with my 92 coworkers. This will be our 4th launch together. These launches have become a highlight of our night. You'll love to hear it. Honda Red Rider 450 with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Honda. Says shout out from Jess, Vicky, Joe, Wyatt, Lane, Owen, JP, Riley, Shane, JP, Holly, the Stacys, and the Morgans from Chappie. Apologies if the pronunciation on that was way off, but thank you so much for the kind words and for the shout outs. Beach Bandits Metal Detectors with a $2 super chat saying always enjoy the coverage. Thank you, Beach Bandits. Also thanks to channel member Kel for a $2 super chat. Says always love catching these launches. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Cynthia Graves with a $5 super chat. Just checking in to say hi and thanks. Sasha Myram with a $2 super chat, noting that it was so foggy in San Diego, and I'm guessing did not help with visibility. And Gavin Zander with a $2 super chat, checking in from Reno, Nevada. Thank you, Gavin. Turning now to the mission stats as they currently stand with a good liftoff and landing of the first stage booster B-1082 in the SpaceX fleet. That wrapped up its 16th trip to space and back. This was SpaceX's 540th Falcon 9 launch to date, the 123rd of the year so far. This was also SpaceX's 164th orbital launch within the last 365 days, the 151st orbital launch from Slick 4 East, and the 219th overall orbital launch as well. Here's a look at the bar chart version of things. SpaceX getting pretty close to catching the total number of launches that they were able to achieve in all of last year. And of course, we still have last few months of this year left to go. Moving on to some recovery stats, we just watched the 153rd landing of a booster successfully on the drone ship. Of course, I still love you. This was SpaceX's 416th drone ship landing and the 512th booster landing to date. Finally, with some industry stats, this was the 46th orbital launch from California this year, the 130th from U.S. soil, the 142nd from a U.S. rocket company, and the 222nd orbital launch from around the globe. There have been 5 orbital launch mishaps so far this year. Here's where the pie chart now currently stands. Well, my friends, it has been a very long day to cap off a long week, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Couple launches scheduled for Sunday, so be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. We'll see you back here then. I want to thank our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, for running the technical operations of this broadcast. I see Sasha Myram joined us with channel membership at the pad leader level. Welcome aboard, Sasha. We're glad to have you with us. I also want to thank our moderators in the live chat. Thanks to Rick, Chef, and Astro Joe for helping us out today. And another big thanks to our photography team of John, Michael, and Adam for all their hard work and creativity with the launches this week. And thanks as well to our friends Chuck and Jen Briggs with C&J Images and Pete Karstens with Maxkey Productions for some stellar tracking as well. Most of all, though, thanks to you for wherever you've been watching this broadcast from. We certainly don't take your time and attention for granted, and we look forward to welcoming you back in when next we have a launch to cover. For all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I am Will Robinson Smith. Remember, be good to yourselves, be good to others. We will see you next time, folks, and until then, bye-bye.